logo, but it does get a little tricky on the beginning. Here's kind of the finished with the highlighted marquee circles on the lettering, and Andy Warhol pictures of Elvis. So when you think back of some of the drawings, this stamp was pretty popular, airbrushed from Art Institute of Pittsburgh. So here's just the beginning, just kind of showing you the lettering, trying to create a bold letter. And you can just use a straight one. I'm just trying to match this as best as I could with this. So it's turning the type into outline paths and then using the direct selection tool, just kind of moving it to fill up and match as close as I can get to this lettering. But again, you can just use the font and try it straight. So here the V is probably the harder and the S is probably the hardest one. Just kind of bumping it over and then just using the same amount of increments that you go over, like 10 pixels across, and then stretching it across. And the S was just using the shape builder to clip off these, create two shapes to clip off the edges, because the font is not exactly the same. So it's pretty close. The S is the one that's coming off the furthest. One way to do it is to create a line that goes through it, and using that line then, and I have this path that has circles on it. So there's 6 of them here, so you just have to go into the stroke palette and increase that. So it's a dashed line, I'll show at the end, that creates that dotted line going across. And here you can align them if you want. I'm just using visually, or you can try it separately. The V was a little tricky on there, so let's see what's going on here on this side of it. See what happened here. So you can kind of get an idea of the V shapes. The circles come out and just kind of moving the lines across so that they don't overlap, and then just removing one to the next to give it a little gap in there, so we can fix that. So you don't really want those two touching if you can help it, and just by eliminating and shortening the line, it'll come back to that one. Here's just an L shape and creating the stroke so it fits in there, and then extending the stroke. And here kind of doing 3 parts of the E, and then just a line segment for those 2 dots. Come back to this part and just shorten up the line, and then I'll eliminate that bottom circle to place in there. Yes, it's a little tricky. So just to show you as an offset path, and then using the direct selection tool to click on the end pieces and just giving a little bit, put the stroke in there, went into the path and simplified it, and just adjusted it. But again, you can just go in and do a path selection. I'm just trying a couple process on both pieces, and then just selecting the letters, giving them the fill of black, selecting the interior parts, and just giving those, giving those the stroke that has the circles that you can change, and grouping them together. Putting a little R, option R for the registration in Helvetica, just so you get used to doing that. Place it in the middle, just duplicate a copy of it, make that just a little bit bolder and bigger, 14 points, and then just making a copy and giving the background maybe a gold yellow color. And that's simply how it's placed in there. The tricky part, like I said, I'll just do a stroke down at the bottom, use the eyedrop tool to select the stroke, and then under the stroke panel, the dashed line is what this is, so you can change the dash. It has to have round caps, and that'll give you that selection of a circular path.